Okay, everyone, I'm Enlightened Coverfield. Today, Dave. The first thing that can be determined is floating light. It's not a very innovative new product, because when we first designed the product Fuyun, it has been determined that this will be a twin sibling product. It will have a round and square appearance, but the floating clouds go first. And so far, Fuyun has sold thousands of sets. It has been widely recognized by players. What do we think? It's time to come up with a square version, otherwise it will be easy to get rid of it. In the end, the plan was stranded. So from the beginning of the establishment, we hope that the two versions will be different, and it is best to form a complement. So let's take a look at the differences in appearance and the household department. Why do floating clouds go first? Because floating clouds are typical Enlightenment. The aesthetic style is minimalist, but advanced. At the same time, we also understand that many players in the circle like more complex elements, richer design. The floating light is based on the aesthetics of Enlightenment. The design of superimposing the aesthetic differences of the players is still the minimalist aesthetic design of Enlightenment. But we designed one of the sides to be a replaceable patch. We will open source data for this patch, and any brand and individual can make it. The official is also planning several patch series, but it's not sure when it will land. Okay, appearance. Let's quickly pass by and focus on the feel design. There are two versions of super dense and super paragraphs in the early stage of floating. Let's go from shallow to deep. Let's take a look at the super dense first. The super dense floating clouds. The pig trough is specially designed by us. It has received praise from most players. But the floating clouds are currently super dense because there is only steel and bullets. There is a regret about the two materials. It is the need to run in, and the run-in will make new players very uncomfortable. The floating light hand batch is made of plastic material, the same ultra-dense track design as the floating cloud. There will be no powder loss and there is no running in. Paint is the pinnacle. Hand feel. Let's experience it. But if that's the case, isn't the floating light just a floating cloud with a square appearance? Isn't that pure skin change? Not interesting. So, in addition to the special ultra-dense orbit of floating clouds, on the other side, I also made the traditional overclocking track in the circle for everyone. The feel of these two versions is different. You can choose according to your own preferences, and it is very convenient to replace it. That's just like this. Just pull out the top cover, then adjust the direction, and now this direction. If you put it down, then this is the traditional supermeter hogweed. But this is not the end, we think. Some people do like blue, some people like yellow. But isn't there anyone who likes to mix yellow and blue? Forms green. So although it is two ultra-dense track designs, but we use the same paragraph spacing, you can put spring beads on both sides. This way you can enjoy two very different ultra-dense tracks. The added blending feel brought by. The relatively simple super intensive version has been almost introduced. Let's take a look at the super paragraph again. The super paragraph version is of course also a two-track design. On the other hand, there is a floating cloud passage that you may already be familiar with. The other side removed 3 pairs of paragraphs. A total of 4 paragraphs of floating cloud paragraphs were removed, and I called it a super paragraph. Then let's look at the floating cloud paragraph first. There are 3 spring holes here and only one is placed. Or 3, that is the feel of the paragraph. Then if you put 1 or 3, it is to enhance the paragraph. The feel of enhancing the paragraph will be very crisp. Let's experience it. And if only 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 are placed, it is densely closed. If you put different springs in the 2 holes, for example, the one on the left is the middle of the spring of Rueda. This one is a gold-plated spring. We move the spring to the middle and then cover it. Then this changes from dense to high bass intensive. The high and low dense sound is also very tempered. So on the side of the paragraph track, we can achieve paragraphs. Enhance the feel of dense passages and dense high and low sounds. Let's take a look at it again. The super paragraph here is actually just a turn around. Then if you turn around, there are also 3 pig troughs here. If we put 1 and 3, it is a long slide and frustration. Note that although it is a long skate, it can be centered and returned. We also know that some players like long skating, but don't like setbacks. So it's also very simple. You only need to choose any of the 4 line slots. Add a bead to a groove and close it. Then there will be no setbacks. There are only 2 paragraphs of long slips. Okay, some sharp-eyed and smart players may have noticed. Then the number 2 spring hole on this side of the super paragraph is a decoration that can't be used. Not only can it be used, and it is the essence of the super paragraph. As for why the essence, let me take you through it. We add this bead. Now on this side of the super paragraph, we filled all 3 spring columns. See what effect it will have. Slide forward first. The middle post triggers. It's an easy one, slide 1 step forward. 2 spring beads on both sides set off, which is an accent. Then slide forward, and the one on the far left is a light sound. Then let's slide back again, 2-way 1, 2 light and 1 light. Then release the light on the right side again. In other words, in the back and forth formation, there are not only differences between paragraphs, but also light and stress sounds. So light and accented, it reminds us of the lawyer who has studied Chinese in elementary school. It's like flat, it's flat, let's feel it. Is it so? Climb and climb. In fact, I have been emphasizing that we are playing with tactile toys, especially when playing mechanical push rows. What we are playing or what kind of feel is a good feel. Essentially, we play with tactile toys. In fact, it is playing with rhyme. So what about rhyme? It is related to rhythm. It's the same 2-sided track as super dense, because it's strictly aligned, so the 2 sides can also be placed with the pillars at the same time. But the 3-on-3 permutation is more terrifying. If I introduce them one by one, I'm afraid it will be very brain-burning. That's all for the introduction of the red trough. More ways to play are waiting for you to try for yourself. The introduction of the red groove is over. The explanation of the feel part is actually not over, because sound is also very important. Components. I believe you may have noticed. We dug a lot of holes in the upper and lower covers of the entire toy patch. We call it a sound gun. This sound gun is not the old Long's Wangsu. You can actually compare it with you. Then let's take a look at the super paragraph first. This is the sound gun dug up. There is no sound digging gun here. At the bottom, there are also 2 sound guns here. The bottom is solid. Let's listen to it. The sound configuration is exactly the same. Although there are also high and low tones on the left, they are obviously not as crisp as the right. Then let's compare the super dense. The one on the right is the fire version. It's fairer, and the one on the left is a sample. Of course, the most important thing is that there is no hard wall on the left, and the hard wall is dug on the right. Obviously, I could hear the voice on the right, and the air condensation was much crisper. Speaking of which, I can't help but want to say a few more words. Although at the end of 2025, many players have begun to look at this circle pessimistically. I don't think there is much to innovate. EDC's toys are basically over. Only continue to fry cold rice. But I personally don't think so. Although Fuguang is classified, like Fuyun, it still belongs to the category of ordinary mechanical pushers. Even in such a mature type of mechanical push. In fact, through the continuous improvement of the pig trough and the improvement of the internal structure, it can still make the feel and sound of the mechanical push row a step forward. As for more innovation, it is not something that floating clouds and floating light can carry. We can talk about it in the next video. Then let's talk about the disadvantages of floating light. If this is a shortcoming, it mainly comes from this connection structure. We use the same customized ones as the floating clouds. High-quality long magnets to connect the upper and lower covers. However, this connection will be weaker than that of floating clouds. If you play mechanical pushing, I like to push my head down hard. For example, then he may lift up or even drop the beads. Including the mirror again, he will disintegrate. But our experience is in disintegrating. How do players play? In fact, it will not disintegrate. Everyone should say that there is little disintegration when playing floating clouds, or almost no disintegration, but the player who pushes the head will definitely be overwhelmed. At this point, please be careful before purchasing. This middle column connecting the upper and lower covers, we made 2 materials, Teflon and POM. Teflon's words are smoother, then POM has more damping, Both are standard. You can freely change it according to your own feel preferences. Of course, replacing the magnet inside the center column can also adjust the feel. Finally, let's talk about the release information. We will make the spot debut of floating light at the Shenzhen EDC exhibition on December 13th and 14th. They are the super dense of peak and the super paragraph of pay. The price is 269. For 2 days on the scene, I estimate that it should be 60 or 70 sets each. Although PI and PI versions of floating light and floating clouds are the same price, but it does not mean that the material of floating light will be the same as the corresponding price of floating clouds in the future. Because these two products have different achievements, different forms, and different processing difficulties. So the price between different materials, differential adjustments will be made according to the actual cost. See you in the next video. Or come to booth B11 at EDC Shenzhen this weekend to find me. Goodbye.